getting?
We're getting really useful information. Now, the important thing is we don't know who the people are, so it's anonymised, which is
so
great.
it's privacy compliant?
Privacy compliant. We're fully GDPR compliant in Europe, which is really important, obviously, these days. But we don't need to know about the actual names of the people. What we actually want to know is how long they're listening for, what they're listening to, and there's companies out there who can monetize your content, who see what else you've got on your phone, so they know what else they use. You know, they know that I use Amazon Prime, so they feed me adverts telling me what Amazon Prime are doing, for instance. And that's really valuable information to those advertising companies because they can be selling commercials around that. So not only is it great data for program directors to know how well their programming is doing and see where the peaks are, where the troughs are, but it's great for the advertisers as well because they really know to target those commercials and they hit the spot.
You gave some examples today, for instance, confirming pretty traditional things that we know about breakfast morning listening, but also spikes for stations like TalkSport in the evening when the soccer's on.
Exactly. So it's really important to see that. So one of our sports stations in the UK, we saw that when England were playing in the World Cup last week, that they spiked at 4 times their average daily peak, and that peak was in the evening time. So it shows that sport is working for them and that they're still getting a very good audience for it. And you can look at this data pretty well live now, because online data, you don't have to wait for the audience research figures to come out after 3 months. You can see it pretty well within 15 minutes of it happening. So if you want to run a big promotional campaign because all of a sudden you've noticed a spike in your audience, it's a great time to do it. You can really start plugging stuff because you know, and also you know what's caused that spike. You know, if it's sport, you can see the impact of the sport, and so you can talk to a sports audience. So if it's a big news story, you can see if that's having an impact on whether people are tuning in to find out about it. So you can really target your programming as well and target your promotions.
Now, of course, you can do that with any kind of analytics on any stream, the stream from your website or from your own app. Is Radioplayer different?
Radioplayer's a bit different because, yes, we are taking that data, but we're looking at the reach and the hours, and we're really tracking it closely because we find that other tracking systems aren't radio based, so they're giving you information about how many people are clicking, but not turning it into reach and hours, which is what our stats do, what our insights do, and that's what the program directors really want to know because that's what they're expecting to see. And we're a bit clever about it as well. We get feedback from the phones, so we know if people turn the volume down. So we stop counting because if they've turned the volume down, they're clearly not listening. So they might be running the stream. If the stream runs for more than about 24 hours, we say it's probably been left on, so therefore we'll discount those figures because the person's probably walked away and just left the computer streaming. So we try and be a bit clever to make sure that these figures are right.
How are you and stations using it to monetize the streams for the radio stations?
This is really interesting because this is where it's really important for broadcasters as well, commercial broadcasters, because they need a revenue stream, and they've got to work hard to get that, particularly these days when advertising agencies are moving away from traditional media to digital media. They want to get a part of that digital media spend. So if you look at Absolute Radio in the UK, for instance, if you log into their website, they get more information about you, even more than we can give. Log into Absolute Media with some details, they will feed you 50% fewer commercials and more music because the money they're making from those commercials is so much better than if they don't know that information about you. So what they do is they replace the commercials by records, by music. So the listener's happy because they're being served fewer commercials. The advertisers are happy because they're absolutely targeting that audience with programmatic commercials that are based on where they live, what they buy, what they do, what age they are, all this sort of information. They can absolutely target that audience, and so you're not sort of scattergunning information out there, advertising out there, hoping it'll reach one person in 100. You know that your commercial is reaching the person you want to talk to.
Well, programmatic does that on lots of platforms. What's the difference, and particularly what's the monetary difference between, say, what you might get from Facebook and what you might get from Radioplayer?
So Facebook will get you probably $2 or $3 per thousand clicks. For radio, and we're not talking about Radioplayer in particular here, but from radio, you can be getting up to $25. Because if you look at what happens on, say, YouTube or any of the other platforms, people are probably only accessing that for a short clip, a short bit of information. So the time that they've allocated to that piece of information is quite short. So they'll click through the commercial because they want to get to the short clip that they want to see. Whereas in radio, you tend to be in it for the long term. You're clicking to listen to a program or to be entertained for half an hour while you have breakfast or while you're doing your drive. So actually, that 30-second commercial, if it's a video pre-roll, for instance, at the beginning, you'll watch all the way through because you know you're going to get to the content, and you're used to having advertising on radio anyway, so the fact that there's a commercial at the front and it just happens to have some video isn't unusual in the whole way you consume the media. So I think what actually happens is that with radio, people are paying more attention to the commercial. They're not skipping through it as soon as they possibly can to get to that one bit of content that they were looking for. And I think that's why it's more valuable, and the CPM is a lot higher.
That's really interesting, because I've thought for some time that programmatic is a race to the bottom, really. But it's nice to see that the radio industry is bucking that trend and pushing the prices up.
Well, they are, and particularly the bit of advertising that makes the most is that video pre-roll. That gets the highest CPM of anything, probably 3 or 4 times what in-stream programmatic gets. But it's really valuable real estate, and the big commercial groups realise this and they're making the most of it.